What's going on, everybody? It's Anthony from #BeTheChange. We've got Truth Will Set You Free coming up in an hour and a half. I've been talking about doing this video for a while. Please share this out. I'm going to have to be as careful as possible using the words that I use. But I've been talking about it. I got a document sent to me from a Pro-V nurse. You are not a doctor. You're not allowed to actually have an opinion on anything because reading is apparently only for nurses and doctors. I've met some brilliant nurses, by the way. It's a joke. I met also some really brilliant nurses. Truly, not a joke. But the document she sent as proof, because I said, hey guys, or said, hey to you, this person. The problem, because they got really mad because I was saying that the Unbiased Science Pod, because they shared that, and I go, I think it's ironic that it's called the Unbiased Science Pod when it is the most biased social media page that I know medical information wise. It is ultra pro left, ultra pro V, ultra pro pharmacy, big pharma, ultra follow the science, follow the mask, all these people. So anyways, that's the page she had posted, and I said, it's ironic that it's called that. So we started having a discussion, and I said, here's my issue with getting rid of the monoclonal antibodies. And when I say the monoclonal antibodies, I'm just talking about Regeneron. Regeneron is the one that no longer, out of nowhere, out of the clear blue, the EUA was removed, right? So, and yes, as Rose says, please like and share this out. So she sent a document. She goes, oh, there's data. There's data. Just look at this. This from the, and then she sends it, and it's from the NIH, which automatically makes me go, So I'm going to bring this up on the screen because I want to go through it piece by piece because I went through it that night and I found it fascinating. First off, they really don't have a lot of data on why. And again, Governor DeSantis goes, why is it that you pull it with zero data, zero findings? And I did find someplace else, zero data is in respect to that. Now I'm going to get into the things that they did give the EUA to, which is absolutely insane, which is Monulpulvir, which is at the bottom of their food chain of giving. And Monulpulvir is the Merck version of ivermectin, sugar is good. And then the Plaxovir is the one that they recommended the most, which is the Fizzy Fizz version of the Schmeiser, the version of hydroxyquicodiguine. So those are the replacements. And then on top of it, Remdesivir, a early treatment, early course of Remdesivir, which is fascinating because it should, if it's going to be given, it should only be given early anyways. At the same time, it's also been one of the worst things we've put in our body. Please look up Dr. Brian Ardis if you want more information on just look up Dr. Brian Ardis and Remdesivir, and he breaks apart the data perfectly. He's from Dallas, got to meet him last week, but he's been all over the internet for his research on Remdesivir. So she sends me, which I've replied to, and I replied to piece by piece going, you do realize that the findings at the top do not match the actual information that's in there, and the fact that none of these should be given. And the one monoclonal, or the monoclonals that are still allowed, in fact, don't really have safety issues. Problem is, there is none to be found. And the monoclonals, all monoclonals are different, but monoclonals specifically for COVID are all very similar. So it's super weird. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up this document so you can read along, so you know that I'm not just making up stuff. This is from the NIH, which again, when she sent something from the NIH, I was like, awesome. So I replied with all this stuff, and she has gone dark for 5 days at this point because I said, I mean, I'm up for a conversation. She told me that, she goes, if you saw what I see in the hospitals right now, you would feel different. I go, and she goes, come along with me for a day. And I go, cool, on it. Can I? Crickets. Absolute crickets. All right, let me share this screen so you guys have it. This is is this the wrong one? What is this one? No, I need this guy. Statement of therapies for high-risk, hospitalized people. Because this was her, yes, there's research, and it's from the NIH, which is obviously fascinating. So this is updated on January 19th. This is right at the time they decided to give the whoopsie-daisy and goodbye to Regeneron, which again, it's with the reason they said it was Regeneron mixed with Omicron and all of its mutations, the spike mutations, doesn't work. It's saying it flat out doesn't work, which is ironic because this is on the same day that Fizzy Fizz decided to begin work on a Omicron specific V. So what does that tell you if you use logic, which I know most people can no longer use, but it tells you that something is not working also in the V. So you've decided to pull EUA from a therapeutic that is being widely used. Even if it's friggin' placebo, it's almost harmless. You're essentially telling people that you're going to continue to mandate this other thing that really doesn't work anymore either very much, when the other data findings are not that. And before I read this, because this is all going to be about other things, because nothing in here really talks about Regeneron except for in the beginning, it says it doesn't work, but it doesn't give any data why. So there was an article written, and this was from the expert report, that the results sheet for the for Regeneron, which is bamlanivimab and estimavab, I believe is what. Oh no, that was the other one. Regeneron, you know what it is. It's a combination of two of the other bimidavobs, whatever the heck they're called. It said results in the in vitro lab experiment. In vitro means that it goes that it's in a petri dish. They're testing it. They're not testing it in a person. That's the big difference. They're just testing it, and it did not seem to attack the quote unquote spike protein, which again, that's a reason to start making sure you're doing trials and seeing how it works. Anecdotally, doctors that have been still treating it in Florida and Texas and all these places that have been set up as it became worse and worse on supply as is, it said that, I mean, if Omicron is the main variant, it's still working with these people on a regular basis. But again, that's clinical trials. So it found that, that's right, it's called Casirivimab and Imdivimab is Regeneron. They are substantially less likely to neutralize the simulated Omicron particles that they were versus between previous variants. So it doesn't work as well in simulation, said Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, a professor of the medicine of Stanford University. However, again, he said it's less likely to work, but these sheets and the data that they went on, and I know that I'm using weird words, which is why, not a ton of people watching. But again, this is important. These sheets do not provide any clinical evidence from real-world use, these medications on patients to verify the findings. Zero. No clinical data, strictly in vitro. And again, in vitro, you can Google it, you can look it up. In vitro means essentially petri dish testing it with the spike protein. So again, I sent, there's nothing there. So let me get into the file that I have up here, because we're going to try to whip through it in about 20 minutes. The COVID-19 treatment guidelines for panels therapies, high risk, non-hospitalized patients. So that's updated prior to mid. Monoclonal antibodies was bamlanivimab plus estimavab, because all these different ones were approved. All the monoclonals were approved. The one that if you can see my mouse right there, the Casirivimab plus that guy right there, that is Regeneron. So that is the one they pulled. They did keep the other ones. Ironically enough, the other ones are very similar in structure, very similar in what they do, but those they're keeping. Also, very odd that those are the ones that you cannot find. There is not enough supply for the demand in any way, shape, or form. Super weird, because what does that do? It forces the need for jibbity jabs. Guys, I'm going to put up a banner real quick. Let's see. Been waiting. I know. Sorry, it's taking me a while to get there. I'm looking at comments. Let's see if you would like to support at any time. And we've got a big announcement tonight in terms of the naming of this channel and some of the rebranding. Let's see. Okay. Prior to mid, let's see. Keep going down. Let's see. Because Symmetra, let's see. This is where it gets interesting. So Paxlovid. So this is their findings. So on December 23rd and 22nd and 23rd. Also, how do you have all this time when Omicron's only been the predominant variant in the United States, quote unquote, for the last month and a half? But now, it is more contagious. Everybody's got it. It's the cold. Did you hear me? I can't say it very loud. It's the cold. Yes. So on December 22nd, 23rd, the Food and Drug Administration issued EUAs to allow 2 new oral antivirals, which are the pharmaceuticals that are replacement, the Paxlovid and Monulpulvir. Fun fact about Paxlovid. This is this guy right here. I met somebody that represented the product at a wedding that a lot of people apparently might have gotten the Omicron from. But with that said, Paxlovid is the Fizzer version. I'm just going to say Fizzer is the Fizzer version of what a lot of people confronted, because I go, oh, that's the one that people are calling like the schmectigazoid, the ivermectin, the schmectigan. You got it. And he said, no. Everybody says that. It's so wrong. It's more like hydroxy. Also a very inexpensive therapeutic that nobody's allowed to give out anymore. By the way, I also spoke with a woman that worked at a at a livestock feed store that doesn't give a shit about what she gets sent, but was given a document by, I think it was agriculture, some local governing body, telling her that she had to remove the ivermectin paste for horses off the shelf because people were buying them up, and she had to make sure everybody that used them had some kind of horse or livestock, etc. By the way, I'm going to say this once, and I'm going to say it carefully. The stuff that rise with schmectigazoid, the ivermectin, you know what I'm talking about, the horse version of it, is very similar to the human. It's just an issue of dosage. And if you are smart enough and you can find that, it is a very similar thing if you just speak to somebody that knows how to properly mathematically tell you what the dosage is. If you do, in fact, accidentally overdose on horse medication, which I can tell you probably should not take, probably should not take it. It probably is bad because you could overdose. Overdoses of this certain thing cause bad stomach aches, diarrhea, and throwing up. I'll leave it at that. All right, so let's get to this real quick. And the interesting thing is the fact that they all suck, and they are EUA approved, specifically Monulpulvir, which is at the bottom of their line. So this is the Paxlovid. Here's the Monulpulvir. We'll get more into this down. I'm not going to go through all the stuff that I decided to go down the rabbit hole and see exactly what all these things do. And honestly, they have their reasons of why they're using it and how it directly attacks the cellular structure of schmecti. What did you say? What was that? Same what, Jessica? Were you told to take it off your shelves too? Okay. I don't know what the same means. I'm probably missing something. Okay. So Monulpulvir has potent antiviral activity. So again, they work very similar to the therapeutics that we are not allowed to name, the Trump therapeutic, and then the Joe Rogan horse therapeutic, which is really interesting because there's findings out of Japan, a country that seems to care much more about their people, that the it's so weird how I have to be so careful what words I use. The Joe Rogan treatment is successful in Japan at early treatment of the Omicron, very early. Granted, we've now moved past that, and we are now on monoclonals, and then all of a sudden now monoclonals are working, and now we're pulling those. The FDA concluded that based on available genotoxicity data on a 5-day duration treatment, Monulpulvir has a low risk for genotoxicity. In addition, there's other countries that have banned this, by the way, but we're using it here in the United States. They're also $700 a treatment, so there's that. Let's see. In addition, there have been concerns about the potential effects of Monulpulvir mutation rates. The FDA is requiring the manufacturer to establish process. So again, they're very early in studying these pills, and they are deciding with limited data, which I'll get into the amount of data before we conclude. They're showing that they're just going to go ahead and EUA it. Why not? Let's pull the safe one, the Regeneron. Let's pull it with no clinical data. Okay. I think you're getting where I'm going. The purpose of the statement is to provide clinicians with guidance, and this is interesting because again, they've given what they are saying. So the common everyday nurse is just going, all right, this is where they stop reading, is right after the purpose of the statement is to provide clinicians with the guidance of the use for Paxlovid, Somatrav, Remdesivir. Sotrovimab is one of the monoclonals, Remdesivir, and Monulpulvir. For the treatment of non-hospitalized patients with COVID-19. So this is outpatient, not inpatient. By the way, Remdesivir was used before with inpatient. Again, look up Dr. Brian Artis to learn more about why that's a horrific idea. These recommendations are based on the results of clinical trials for all of these. And notice there's no clinical trials for the regular monoclonal, like zero. They're not looking at any clinical trials. They're not looking at any of that. They're strictly looking at clinical trials on these 4 that they've pushed through. It should be Should be noted the number of factors affect the selection of the best treatment option. Let's see. The availability of treatment option, the feasibility of administering paraternal medications, which is the sotrovimab and remdesivir, the potential for significant drug interactions. The drug interactions are fascinating for their number one pick, Plaxovir, whatever the hell, which they mention right here. Let's see. Regional prevalence of Omicron. Again, the big deal is the fact that they need to find something that works with Omicron. Let's see. These they were evaluated initially in unV'd individuals, provide the greatest benefit for non-hospitalized patients who have risk factors. So again, their sample size and one of their controls is strictly unV'd individuals, which, if they truly believe that it's supposed to help the V, why are you not looking at a fair set of data? That means that there are these other things that could help V'd individuals, correct? And they're not even looking at that, like things like the regular monoclonal, like Regeneron. Didn't even look at that. Okay. The risks for progression are substantially higher for those who are not V'd, yada, yada, yada. When the logistical or supply constraints make it impossible, you get the point. Okay. So the recommendations: Paxlovid, number one, orally twice daily for 5 days, initiated as soon as possible within 5 days. Number two is the single IV infusion. This is monoclonal. So again, we're going to get into the Paxlovid because before prescribing Ritonavir boosted, blah, 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 Paxlovid, clinicians should carefully review patients' concomitant medications, including over-the-counter medications, herbal supplements, etc., which you will see the drug interactions, which I'm going to click on. I don't know if it was in this document or if I had to click on it. Crap. Shouldn't have done that. Let's just do it here since I opened it up. Before prescribing Paxlovid, because I want to talk about this, they evaluate the drug-on-drug interactions. This is insane. It does not match. It does not work well with so many different drugs, and you know how our country takes stuff. Drug class is a particular concern. Those that include drugs that are prone to concentration-dependent toxicities, not limited to certain things with the heart, oral anticoagulants, immunosuppressants, these are a lot of different kinds of drugs. I want to see if this is the document that had the big list. Where's it? Oh, here you go. Here is the whole list of drugs that that do not mix. If the patient is receiving any of these medications, withhold the medication if clinically appropriate. If withholding is not clinically appropriate, use an alternative. So here is all the different drugs that you cannot mix. I'm just going to let you guys look at this ridiculous list. And that means you also have to check. This is not just like the drug name that you would take. I think it's weird that St. John's wort is on there. But you have to see if any of the prescription drugs that people are on, oxycodone or these things go into some of the drugs that you don't even realize that you're taking. So again, it's dangerous. So they have to be very careful what people are already on. They could potentially still use it with dose reduction. But anyways, this is how vast their list is right here of things that do not mix. So let's see. I'm going to go back to the other document. All right, because that shows the issues with Paxlovid. Clearly, there is some interesting things when it comes to that many drug interactions. That's crazy. Nancy, find that for me. That'd be hilarious to see. Because, the National Institute of Health in Japan says that schmerchnigozoid works on Omicron. All right, so this is the monoclonal. Because Omicron has become the dominant, yada, yada, yada. This is now, the panel recommends against bamlanivimab, blah, blah, plus the other, yada, yada. That is Regeneron. And then this is the Eli Lilly one, the Casirivimab plus one of these are bamlanivimab is Eli Lilly, Casirivimab is Regeneron. So notice I'm not a doctor, but again, I can read these things and figure things out on my own. Please hit the like button or the thumbs up so we can continue to get this out there. Remdesivir, 200 milligrams. Again, Remdesivir is ridiculous. They have in inpatient. Most people don't make it through their treatment because of the liver and kidney function becoming so poor that they can no longer continue, and then they have to try something else. It essentially sends people to the ventilator. but now we're going to try to give it earlier, which is technically the only time remdesivir should be used or even considered use, because it deals with virus replication, much like the other therapeutics we're looking at. So the earlier you get in, the better. When you're going into a hospital giving something that deals with virus replication, when the virus is already fully replicated, duplicated, and already fully through the body, and it doesn't do anything, all you're doing is really hurting patients at that point. Remy should be administered. This is great. So now outpatient. Now it's here you go, take this. It requires IV infusion for 3 days, and there may be logistical constraints to administering it. Remdesivir is currently approved by the FDA for use in hospitalized individuals. Why? I don't know. Therefore, outpatient treatment would be off-label indication. Remy should be administered in a setting where there is where severe hypersensitivity reactions such as anaphylaxis can be managed. Patients should be monitored during the infusion for at least an hour after. That sounds really safe. And then they don't really get much into that here. Monulpulvir. How this is even approved is mind-boggling. This is the one that is done by Merck, the same company that makes schmectigazoid, which said that it does not work with they said ivermectigazoid does not work with COVID because I don't know, because it's cheap, and guess what? They're also helping Johnson & Johnson, and they've been helping build the actual V all along. If people want to know the reason why would they slam their own drug? There you go. Why Regeneron would do the same? I don't know. I have no idea why that's a great question. Regeneron, I don't know what their holdings are in other companies, but Regeneron said that it didn't work against Omicron. I thought that was very, very interesting because I don't on paper. I mean, as somebody that tries to look for the conspiracy and the reasons in it, I don't see it. I have no idea why. Very solid question. Monulpulvir twice a day. FDA, EUA states monulpulvir is not recommended for use in pregnant patients due to concerns about the instances of fetal toxicity observed during animal studies. Weird. However, when other therapies are not available, pregnant people with COVID-19 who are at high risk of progressing to severe disease may reasonably choose monulpulvir therapy after being fully informed of the risk, particularly those who are beyond the time of embryogenesis, 10 weeks of gestation. So again, not good for pregnant patients. So clearly there's something being passed along there. Don't know why that's bad, but there it is. There are no data on the use of monulpulvir in patients who have received the Vs. So again, they're not even testing this in V'd people, which is the predominance of the United States of America at this point. Am I right? We're at like 70, 80% V'd, or if not more. There is no data on the use of monulpulvir in patients who have received COVID-19. So they're not even testing these people. Again, no idea at all. Let's see. High risk, non-pain, moderate COVID-19. There are currently no clinical trial data to compare the clinical efficacy in these therapies. None. No clinical data, but they're switching it straight to EUA. Straight to EUA. Let's pull Regeneron and go straight to EUA. So it essentially says panel favors the use of Paxlovid, which is the fizz, in most high-risk, non-hospitalized patients with mild to moderate COVID-19. If Paxlovid is not available because of the drug interactions, which I said were vast, I'm right here right now, then the panel recommends the other monoclonal. If that's not available, then it recommends Remdesivir, which, as we know, is not great for the kidneys or the liver. And then it goes to Monulpulvir, which we're going to get into later, which soon as I can get to it, because that's really the last big straw. Is like, holy shit, you're actually prescribing this to human beings. So the efficacy, and it's all very weird. 88, the reduced risk of hospitalization or death by 88% compared to the placebo. They were testing such low numbers of people. It's very hard to look at the 88%. The 88% is not meaning like there was 88 people more. It was literally the overall testing was with, I believe, it was 2,200 people using the Paxlovid. So 2,200 people is such a small subset that when it's 88%, the placebo had very few people actually die as well. So you're looking at a difference of like 5 and 1. It's incredibly low. But as it says there, the in vitro and in vivo data currently limited, which means in a human and looking at the cells, still very limited. Way too early to just pop off with EUAs here and take it away from other places like Regeneron. Or again, not even allow the use of the schmectigazoid. Did you have somebody's talking to somebody else? Okay. Sotrovimab. So this is the monoclonal that is still available, which is not available anywhere, but it's still the one we can use. Let's see, clinical deaths for agents. Omicron has become dominant variant. Again, this is the only one that really is safe and should be suggested. Problem is, they can't suggest it because it's not available. They can't suggest that as number one because you can't find it. Regeneron is the only one you can find. Remdesivir, I love the fact that they don't really include the safety data in this basic results because it's really bad. Remdesivir is expected to be active against, although in vitro and vivo, it's all limited. All data is limited. If all the data is limited, when I ask for data, and this is what a nurse sends me when she goes, see, it works. If there's no data, then why did we pull Regeneron? Monulpulvir, except for the fact it's being used everywhere and it was working really, really well. Monulpulvir, this is great. Where is it? Is this the area that says it? This might be. Hold on. Okay, so Monulpulvir, it says it's expected to be active against the Omicron. Expected. They recommend this. The lowest has lower efficacy than the other options, and it's also incredibly unsettling. The danger on this one. Let me see if I can find that, and then we'll wrap up because I also want to see. I didn't see the numbers. The amount of actual people tested were so low on this. It's such a small subset that this is not data. It's barely anecdotal. There's one thing on Monulpulvir. Okay, Monulpulvir patients should complete a 5-day treatment course. It is unknown whether a shorter course is less effective or associated with emergency or the Monulpulvir resistant mutations. Here we go. Ready for this one? Patients of childbearing potential should be considered from abstaining from sex or using reliable contraception for the duration of their therapy and for up to 4 days receiving it. Reproductive toxicity. That means something is in the reproductional area of the body that is issues. So reproductive toxicity has been reported in animal studies of Monulpulvir, and Monulpulvir may be a mutagenic drug during pregnancy. It gets worse. This is what I've been talking about all week, if you're wondering. Men of reproductive potential who are sexually active with individuals of childbearing potential, meaning make sure you don't get somebody pregnant while you're using this. What the hell is in this that could be doing something like this? So men of reproduction potential who are sexually active with individuals of childbearing potential should abstain from sex or use reliable form of contraception for the duration of treatment for at least 3 months. 3 months after the last dose of Monulpulvir. 3 months after the last dose of Monulpulvir. I'll let that sink in. So there is something with such a high level of toxicity and proof in animal trials that they are afraid of what can happen if a couple creates a child after having their last dose of Monulpulvir. And this is approved when Regeneron, they're just saying it doesn't really work with Omicron. This is also $700 a dose, made by Big Pharma. Let's see. I'm still looking for the safety data on ivermectin that really doesn't have any issues with safety. Let's see. FDA states Monulpulvir not recommended in use pregnant patients due to concerns about fetal toxicity. Talked about that. Don't use it for lactating people. Like, what is it being? What are you putting into the body? Not approved for use in under 18. Speaking of that, appears as though they're trying to now push through. They're having a hearing on EUA for ages 8 months to 5 years now in children. This is real. On the V, I mean, by the way. The most common adverse. There's common adverse effects. Diarrhea, nausea, and dizziness, which, sounds similar to a lot of other ones. But the other stuff, it's a little worse. Clinical trial data. So this is the last thing I'm going to cover. Total of 2,200 participants were enrolled in the trial. Mean age 40. So this is they don't have the controls. This is a key. They do not talk about comorbidities. They do not talk about whether or not, again, with the comorbidities, which patients were obese that received the which treatment. Like the controls are very, very vague. So you've got 2,246 participants, mean age 46 years old, 51% of the participants men, 72% were white, 47% of the participants tested negative for antibodies. So that's interesting. So I'm wondering what side those people were on. 47% of the participants tested negative for antibodies. And we can't see the actual data to see which one of those patients, whatever. 66% started the study treatment within 3 days of symptom onset. So when were the rest tested? Like these are so odd. So which patients survived? Which patients went to the hospital? Was it the ones that were the 34% after the 3 days of symptom onset? Like, I know why you do randomized trials, but we would like, if you want to give me the raw data, give me the raw data. Participants who were randomized within 3 days of symptom onset, there was 1,003. So the early ones were 1,379. They were included in the modified intention to treat analysis. COVID-19 patients hospitalized, causal death. Okay, so they did break it apart. So technically, the ones that were given it early, within 3 days. Sorry, we still have allergies in Texas right now because we're about to get a winter storm and it was windy. And me and Dust have not been getting along for the last 3 weeks. Somebody asked me why I was nasally the other day. This is probably it. Participants who were randomized within 3 days of symptom onset. There was 1,379. So out of that, they were treated early. Again, some of these were treated with placebo. Some were treated with the Paxlovid, the one they recommend the most. Let's see. 697 participants that got the Paxlovid died. No, hospitalizations and all-cause death. So hospitalized or died. I love that they grouped that together. And 44 of 682 went to the hospital or died in the placebo. I find that interesting. We don't know the difference between death and whatever. So you have 44 out of 682, which is a pretty high number, that received the placebo. So it does show pretty decent efficacy in a small subset of group of people where we do not know comorbidities. We do not know weight. We do not know overall health. We do not know if they're smokers, etc. None of that information is in there. And we don't know which way those went to what side. Let's see. Randomized 5 days of symptom onset. Let's see. 8 of 1. So 0.8%. So as time went on, they got less and less effective. Correct? No, actually, it didn't. 0.8%. About the same in the Paxlovid, and then about the same in the placebo arm. So I get this is the relative risk reduction is 88% based on a study of 2,200 people where we do not know any of the controls. Lindsay, yes. So we don't know any of the controls there. Adverse effects that occurred more frequently. There was very few. The adverse effects were very small in that category. But again, adverse effects out of 2,200 are incredibly slow. Now, this monoclonal, they tested 291 participants. It seemed to work very well. It was actually a 85% relative reduction, and I kind of explained how the relative reduction worked up there. It's based off of the placebos. Remdesivir kept getting lower in terms of the relative risk reduction. Actually, no, it went higher, 87. That one's just got bad side effects, that's why that's bumped down on the list. Again, you're testing 283 people. This is such a small subset. Let's see. And Monulpulvir really didn't work very well at all. So here, final analysis. Now, this one, for Monulpulvir, they actually showed a little bit of their body mass index greater than 30. So again, they're now testing a high risk group. So your BMI is over 30 and 16% high diabetes. Where was this information? This is key. Where was this information above in the other data? So this analysis, the one with Monulpulvir, has the most information about the people. 1,433 patients, median age was 43 years, with 17% of them aged over 60. 49% of the participants were men, 57% were white, 50% were Hispanic, and 5% were Black or African American. Among these participants, 74% had a body mass index over 30, BMI over 30, and 16% had diabetes. They started the trial for 50% of them, 48% under 3 days. By 29, here's the test. And again, they're talking about that they're using a lot of heavier people. They're using people with diabetes. We don't know what side of the coin they were on. Essentially, I'm guessing they make up a solid percentage of all of the hospitalizations and deaths. I mean, by math, that would make sense. By everything we know, that would make sense. But again, this is also a trial of only 1,433 people. Which drug is the new schmurschmecticazoid? Monulpulvir is the closest to a schmurschmecticazoid, Lindsay. The difference in efficacy of monulpulvir was observed between participants in the interim analysis and closed. There it is. Woo! That was a lot of data. I read it the other night. I know that was probably a lot. We had, a lot of people watched and a lot of people dropped like, no, I'm not paying attention. Ultimately, if you want the findings, here it is. There is no data. There is no clinical trials that were sent to me regarding or anywhere available on why Regeneron believes it does not work. Because if it was working in Florida 2 weeks ago, when the predominant strain at that point was Omicron, the clinical data or the actual anecdotal data in that case shows that it still works. There is no data proving it doesn't except for in vitro, which in vitro is in essentially a petri dish. When they're testing it, it's avoiding actually having an impact on Omicron, but it's got a good safety profile. So it's not really worth pulling right away until you do clinical data. Have they done clinical trials? No. What have they done clinical trials on? The 4 things that they have EUA that they show right here. I'm sorry, there is no clinical trials. These are all, there is clinical trials. They're minimal. And also they do not have a full safety trial data on any of these. We learned Monulpulvir, which is at the bottom of their list. You can't have sex for 3 months if you're of childbearing age. You can't breastfeed, and you can't have children and take it while you're pregnant unless it's the last case scenario, because that sounds safe. We then also learned that all the trials don't really list any information except for Monulpulvir did. Paxlovid has drug interactions that don't work with a myriad of drugs that a lot of people take. So it's not safe for that because of the way that it interacts. Yet we've approved it, EUA approval. And then you've got the other 2 brands that are the other monoclonals, which are approved, that actually look great. They actually show a lot, just like Regeneron has in the past. Unfortunately, you cannot find those to save your soul. Last but not least, you've got Remdesivir, which, again, for the last time, just Google Dr. Brian Ardis. He is a chiropractor. I know that doesn't seem to match up, but he does his own research by showing all the clinical data that is approved, used, CDC, NIH, on Remdesivir. And I know a lot of you guys already know it was used for Ebola and all these different things, yet it was pulled because of safety issues and the fact that it doesn't work and the fact that it causes lung and kidney failure at a certain point. And most people didn't even make it through the trial, yet we're still pumping this $3,000 drug into bodies. And now we're using it early, which should have been the only place we would have considered it in the first place, because it deals with the replication of a virus. And we have decided to now use it early. So again, best time to use it early, but we're still using it late in hospital. It's the only one approved for in-hospital treatment, which is sick, sad, sadistic, and weird to show that it's $3,000. And then the last thing is, when you actually look up what doctors have talked about, is the Regeneron just didn't work as well. It looked like in vitro, substantially less likely to neutralize the simulated Omicron particles than they were versus simulated versions of previous variants. However, all of this has been done in vitro. Let's see. Said these are less likely to work than it did with earlier variants. But the sheets that he is reviewing in this article, he says they don't provide any clinical evidence for real-world use of these medications on patients to verify the findings, however. So the findings might not even be good. The findings might just be one single lab. Might have been a Pfizer lab. Who knows? We don't even know where it's from. In Florida, there was a 90% reduction in total hospitalizations within a few months of implementing monoclonal antibody treatment, due in part to the peak of our seasonal summer wave and also the success of over 4,000 new. They were treating 4,000 monoclonal patients a day in our statewide treatment locations, which then had to get shut down because all they had supply of was Regeneron. Weird. Super weird. Anyways, guys, that's what I got for you tonight on Truth Will Set You Free. Our topics, I know somebody asked earlier, we're going to be talking trucker convoy. We might only have Casey and Mo. There's been comments while I've been doing this in our group chat. Let me see what we got. What do people have to say? Yikes. Let's see. Mo should be there. Eric should be there. Casey should be there. And then at one point, Suni might drop in. She is on vacation. Geez, there's a long line at the grocery store in Texas because welcome to our first ice storm of the year. All right. Talking about trucker convoy tonight. I'll go through this real quick again. I'm going to take 5 minutes on Regeneron being pulled. Let's see. Joe Rogan is now center of an attack. Trump's rally. And then talk about the border. Feds. We got a video of border and the feds. And Charlemagne's video talking about bring Trump back. That's the show for tonight. We'll see you guys at 8 o'clock Central Time, 9 o'clock Eastern. So about 45 minutes from now. I wanted to make sure I got this in before the show started, and some more announcements coming tonight. Hopefully, we'll see. All right, guys. God bless. Good night. Take it easy. Godspeed. If you want to support us, go to patreon.com/BeTheChangeUSA. You see it on the bottom of the screen. Hasta luego. See you tonight. Goodbye. Goodbye.